Two children vanish from a quiet Nova Scotian town, and somehow every adult around them has a different story. A muddy yard, a missing blanket, a sticker that matches Lily's sweater, found miles away near an unnamed bridge. Surveillance footage exists, but no one seems to agree on what's in it. The timelines don't match. The excuses don't hold. And the people closest to Jack and Lily? They were the first to go silent. This isn't just a disappearance. It's a case wrapped in misdirection, conflicting testimony, and quiet community fear. Today, we're pulling apart every thread, from dispatch recordings to hidden trail footage, because someone knows what happened to Jack and Lily Sullivan, and we're not letting go until we find out who. But before we dive into this, kindly subscribe to our channel if you believe in fighting for justice. We've just crossed 2,000 subscribers, all because of your support, and we need that same energy to reach 3,000, then 5,000, and then 10,000. So go ahead and drop your DNA on that subscribe button, because wherever you are, the day this vision is fulfilled, I will send my appreciation straight to you. Let's keep building this community that fights for justice together. Some cases are lost in the noise. This one? It's buried in silence, muddy tire tracks, and a trail of shifting stories. Jack and Lily Sullivan were just kids. But the adults around them, the ones who should have protected them, can't seem to get their facts straight. One says 8 o'clock. Another says 8:30. One claims she heard the kids playing outside. Another says they were in bed. A third says they searched the woods, even though those kids never went into the woods alone. And somewhere between a missing boot print and a level patch of gravel, the truth disappeared. I've gone over the dispatch tapes. I've analyzed the footage, and in the next few minutes, we're going to break down what really happened that morning. Not just the timeline, but the motive, the misdirection, and the silence that's growing louder by the day. Because one of these people knows exactly what happened to Jack and Lily Sullivan. And if you stay with me through this video, I'm going to show you exactly where their story begins to unravel. It's easy to miss, but when you slow the footage down, it's right there in front of us. The driveway, the mud, the water-soaked earth that should have remembered every step. This was filmed 1 week after Jack and Lily vanished. Same time of year, same weather, same ground conditions. Heavy rain, soggy terrain. If anyone had walked out of that house, we'd see it. But here's what stands out. We do see tire tracks, fresh enough to suggest movement. But there's something missing. Footprints. 2 small sets of footprints. Where are they? If these children wandered off into the woods on their own, they didn't float there. So where are the prints that prove it? Why is it that the mud remembers the tires, but not the feet of 2 kids in pajamas? And then there's the question nobody wants to ask. Whose tires are those? Because while RCMP statements remain vague, and family stories keep shifting, this patch of ground may be the most honest witness we have. And then there's Janie, claiming she was leveling out gravel, right here, just before they disappeared. Convenient? Coincidence? Or cover-up? Let's not rush it, because what comes next will make that gravel detail feel a lot darker. Let's talk about this so-called pool, because that's where the first real crack in the story begins. Janie, one of the last adults to allegedly see or hear Lily and Jack, told authorities she had been leveling the ground for a pool the night before they vanished. Sounds harmless enough, until you realize when and where she said she was doing it. She claims it was Thursday evening, just hours before the kids disappeared, right outside her RV, same spot where the boot print was later found. Now ask yourself, why mention the pool at all? Why even bring it up, unless it was part of the setup? She says it was for the kids, but there's no pool. There never was. And yet that small patch of gravel has become the epicenter of everything, the place where the boot print appeared, the place where she was seen crying, and the place that RCMP returned to again, and again, and again. Why? Because something happened there. And maybe Janie's pool excuse was an attempt to explain away disturbed ground before someone asked the wrong question. And here's what's worse. That boot print was originally reported as 2 boot prints, facing the road, Then suddenly, it became just one. How does that change happen? Unless someone is shifting the narrative to hide who really walked away. Timelines don't lie, but people do. And in this case, every adult seems to remember something different. Let's break it down, because if we can pinpoint the moment Lily and Jack were last seen, we might just unravel who's lying, and why. First up, Malia. She tells Belinda that she heard the kids in their room at 8:30 a.m. But RCMP dispatch radio says the children haven't been seen since 8 a.m. That's a 30-minute gap. And in missing child cases, that's not a small error. That's a canyon. Daniel Martel, the stepfather, claims the kids went quiet around 8 o'clock, and that he waited 20 minutes before getting up to check. That puts us at 8:20. But Janie's call log shows she was on the phone with her brother at 8:48 a.m. and says she heard Daniel yelling for the kids just after. So what are we really looking at here? 8 o'clock, 8:20, 8:48? If Daniel realized they were gone by 8:20, and Janie heard him yelling closer to 8:50, who's adjusting the clock? And one more thing, Janie says she heard the kids outside her RV before it all went quiet, meaning she may have been the last person to ever hear Jack and Lily alive. Or she was setting the stage. Because the timeline doesn't just shift, it fractures. Let's go back to what they all said, because it matters now more than ever. Daniel Martel told police, "Jack and Lily never go into the woods alone." Janie echoed it. Malia backed it. The whole household agreed. The woods weren't a place those children wandered into. Not on their own. So why was the first instinct to head straight there? Daniel says he checked the woods immediately after realizing they were gone. Janie told RCMP she walked all the way back to a dirt road behind the property. Not just near the edge of the trees. Deep enough that they needed drones to help. Think about it. If you believed the kids never went near the forest, why wouldn't you search the yard first? The driveway? The nearby cabins? Why go straight into the one place they supposedly feared? Unless you knew something had happened there. Unless you weren't searching, you were checking. And here's where it starts getting uncomfortable. Because this isn't just a case of bad judgment or panic. Janie told dispatch she heard the kids outside her RV. And a boot print, just one, was found near her spot. Not two. Not tiny kid shoes. A single adult-sized print, leading nowhere. And that spot, the same place she claimed to be leveling ground for a pool the night before. Which, let's face it, makes no sense for late April in Nova Scotia, in freezing rain, during a custody crisis. That exact area was searched by RCMP not once, but 3 separate times. With drones. With cadaver dogs. With their eyes open for something Janie may have been trying to bury, literally or figuratively. 2 hours. That's the space between when Lily and Jack were last heard, and when police were finally called. Daniel Martel says it took 20 minutes to realize they were missing, but in his next breath, he calls it just a few minutes. He can't keep it straight. Meanwhile, Malia says she heard them in their room at 8:30. Janie claims she heard them outside near her RV not long after. But RCMP dispatch records say, children last seen at 8 a.m. If you average it all out, you get a blurry window between 8 o'clock and 8:50 a.m. A critical hour, full of noise, then silence. Now here's the part no one's explained. Why wait until 10:06 a.m. to call 911? Why spend nearly an hour and a half pacing, checking, wandering, before alerting authorities? Daniel says he ran toward the woods immediately. Janie says she heard the kids, then fell asleep. She says Daniel was yelling outside. But she didn't get up. She didn't go looking. She didn't call. Not even a message to Malia. Ask yourself this. If you thought 2 young children had just vanished, in wet cold weather, near deep forest, would you hesitate? Or would you pick up the phone so fast your hands wouldn't stop shaking? Unless you knew they were already gone. Unless someone in that house was scrambling, covering, agreeing on a story. You see, delays in missing persons cases often reveal more than people intend. Delays leave trails. They crack timelines wide open. They tell us something important happened, but it wasn't a search. It was strategy. You've heard the times. 8 a.m. Lily and Jack are supposedly last seen. 8:30 a.m. Malia says she still heard them in the room. 8:48 a.m. Janie's on the phone with her brother. Around 8:50, she hears Daniel yelling. 10:06 a.m. The 911 call is made. At first glance, these seem like messy recollections. But listen closer, they aren't just messy. They contradict each other. Let's break it down. If Daniel and Malia told the kids to quiet down around 8 o'clock, and then claimed to have noticed them gone 20 minutes later, that puts us at 8:20 a.m. So why is Janie saying she heard the kids outside after 8:50? If she truly heard them near her RV at that time, then they weren't missing yet. But by Daniel's timeline, they were already gone. So either Janie is lying, or she heard something else. A noise that wasn't Lily. A voice that wasn't Jack. Or maybe, just maybe, she's trying to rewrite the moment they disappeared. And there's more. Why did Daniel say it took 30 seconds to check the woods, but also said it took him 20 minutes to notice they were gone? Which is it? Seconds? Minutes? Or just more fog in a story full of smoke? Now here's the clincher. Janie says she laid back down around 8:50, heard the dog bark, heard the kids outside, then silence. Then Daniel yelling. But Malia says she heard them last at 8:30, and Daniel says he noticed they were missing around 8:20. So how is Janie hearing them after they were gone? The math doesn't work. The memories don't line up. And someone is lying. There's a moment in every case where the noise begins to clear. And in this one, it's right here. Outside Janie's RV. A single boot print. Pressed deep into gravel. Facing the road. At first, reports said it was 2 prints. Then it became 1. Why the change? And why is that footprint located in the exact spot Janie claims she was leveling ground for a pool the day before the kids vanished? It's not just oddly specific, it's suspiciously placed. Think about it. Of all the spots around the property, the one that got freshly disturbed was right where that footprint landed, where Janie later sat crying on the sawhorse, where RCMP flew a drone under her RV, where they searched 3 times. And this isn't speculation. These are Janie's own words. She told friends and family about how thorough the search was, how police removed the drum from her washing machine, how they swept through every inch of her trailer. Why? Because something told them that RV wasn't just a resting place. It was a location of interest, maybe even a silent witness. And then there's the question of the kids themselves. If Lily and Jack never go into the woods as Daniel and Janie both insist, why was that their first instinct? Why not check the driveway, the road, the area near the RV, or the path to the back cabins? Instead, both adults say they ran into the woods first. Even though everyone agrees, those kids were afraid of it. So what were they trying to find? Or, what were they trying to move before police got there? By now the timeline isn't just messy, it's broken, bent to fit each person's version of events, like clay in desperate hands. Let's trace it again, slowly. Malia says she hears the kids at 8:30 a.m. Daniel says they were last seen around 8 o'clock. Janie claims she was on a phone call with her brother at 8:48. And somewhere between Facebook scrolls and falling asleep, she hears the kids. And then suddenly silence. Daniel says it took them 20 minutes to realize the kids were gone. Then again in another version, it was only a few minutes. Just long enough to notice quiet, and start yelling. But here's the problem. If everyone agrees the last known time the kids were heard was around 8:30, and Janie was on a call at 8:48, then why? Why was 911 not called until 10 a.m.? That's over an hour. 60 minutes of silence, of movement, of opportunity. What happened during that gap? And why is no one explaining it? If Jack and Lily had simply wandered off, that call would have come sooner. Panic is loud, but guilt is quiet. It buys time. It edits stories. And even now the stories don't match. Malia says one thing. Daniel shifts details. Janie fills in blanks that no one asked her to. Take this for instance. Daniel says the kids would never go into the woods. Yet that's the first place he checks. Janie says she heard the kids outside her RV, then saw a boot print, then mentions almost too casually that she was leveling the ground for a pool. It's like each person is building their own alibi, piece by piece. While the children, the victims, are fading from the center of the story. It's no longer about Lily and Jack. It's about the adults, scrambling to protect something, or someone. And that's where this case turns. From a disappearance, into a deception. Let's go back to Janie. Not her TV interview. Not the carefully worded public statement. But the raw audio. Her own voice. Sent in a message. Maybe she didn't expect it to resurface. Maybe she didn't think anyone was keeping track. But we were. She says she woke up at 6 a.m., fed the chickens, scrolled Facebook, talked to her brother on the phone, then went back to bed. She says she dozed off. She heard the dog bark. She heard the kids outside. And then nothing. It's casual, too casual. She speaks like someone recounting what she had for breakfast. Not like someone describing the last time 2 children were heard alive. And here's where it gets strange. She says she heard Daniel yelling for the kids after she laid back down. She thought he was mad. Thought Jack might have let the chickens out again. So she ignored it. Ignored it. Let that sit with you. The man she shares a property with is yelling for 2 children. She hears the yelling. She hears the silence. And she stays in bed. Now think about this. That yell wasn't panic. It wasn't fear. It was anger. Anger that if Jack and Lily were already gone, doesn't make sense. Unless he wasn't yelling for them. He was yelling because of them. Now match this up with what Janie said about the boot prints. The ones in front of her RV. At first it was 2 prints, facing the road. Then later 1 print. Then later still, none. And that same patch of dirt. That's where she says she was leveling gravel to put up a pool. On the same week the kids vanished. Why mention that? Why go out of your way to explain an area before anyone even asks about it? Unless you know that's where they'll look. The same area RCMP returned to 3 times. Drones under the RV. Appliances torn apart. Looking for something. Or someone. Janie's voice may be calm. But what's missing from it is urgency, empathy, accountability. It's a voice rehearsed in normalcy, but soaked in inconsistencies. And in the next section, we follow what RCMP found next. And the question becomes impossible to avoid. Were Jack and Lily ever supposed to be found? Let's go back to that single boot print. Not a pair, just one. Imprinted deep into wet gravel, sitting directly outside Janie's RV. Now in any other case, a footprint might mean nothing. But this case, every detail has changed. First it was 2 boot prints facing the road. Then it became 1. Then the story shifted again. It became nothing. Just gravel being leveled for a pool. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. Was there ever a boot print at all? Or was that detail offered up preemptively to get ahead of what the RCMP might find? Because here's the thing about people under pressure. They talk. Sometimes too much. Sometimes in ways they don't realize. Why would Janie mention she was filling potholes? Why describe leveling ground on that exact morning? Why was she crying in that same spot later? The same spot where police brought drones, dogs and search tech. Janie says RCMP searched her RV 3 times. Once is standard. Twice suggests suspicion. But 3 times. That's a pattern. That's law enforcement going back because something doesn't sit right. She said they even removed the drum from her washing machine. They weren't looking for clothing. They were looking for trace evidence. So what are they not telling us? And what is Janie trying to get ahead of? Because from the outside, it looks like this. The bootprint story changes. The time the kids were last seen changes. The urgency in the 911 call, non-existent. And the only adult who claims to have heard Jack and Lily that morning is the same adult with a bootprint outside her RV. That's not just a red flag. That's a parade of them. Let's be clear. This isn't about blaming without proof. But we are pointing at inconsistencies. And they are stacking up. And it's not just the bootprint. It's not just the gravel. It's what RCMP kept going back to. That spot. That ground. Because even if we accept Janie's story, that she was preparing for a pool, would you be thinking about summer fun on the very morning your step-grandchildren vanish? Something about that doesn't sit right. Not for me. Not for anyone watching closely. And yet, this is only the beginning. Because what happened after that morning, the calls made, the delays, the lack of public tears, starts to expose something deeper. In the next section, we follow the clock, minute by minute, from the moment the kids were last seen, to the moment the call to police was finally made. And the gaps in between, they're deafening. It starts with a bootprint. At first, according to Janie, it was just two faint impressions, leading away from the gravel behind her RV. But by the second RCMP search, that changed. Now they were only talking about one clear bootprint. One step, one direction, one moment that might have captured someone either leaving the scene or arriving with intent. This print was found just a few feet away from where Janie said she had been working on her laundry, a detail she repeated to police more than once. That spot directly behind the RV's rear door became the focal point of 3 separate RCMP searches. They brought in aerial drones, infrared scanners, and on the 3rd visit, they took her washing machine. Now let that settle. They didn't just swab surfaces. They physically removed the appliance. Why? Because something about that story wasn't holding. Was the bootprint hers? Was it one of the kids? Or was it someone else entirely? Someone who should never have been there. In cases like this, it's rarely the big explosion that tells the truth. It's the footprint in the dirt, the machine that shouldn't be clean, the version of events that shifts, just slightly, every time it's told. We're now past the 3-month mark. Jack and Lily have been gone 78 days. No confirmed sightings. No new footage. No suspects named. And still no bodies. In this silence, grief ferments. Hope turns to doubt. And the town, once loud, with search teams and prayer vigils, has fallen quiet. But that silence should scare us. Because silence doesn't mean closure. It means avoidance. It means someone, somewhere knows something. And they're hoping time will make us forget. Ask yourself, why weren't the bruises taken seriously? Why were the school absences brushed off? Why did no one follow up on the reports of hunger? Or drawings that hinted at things no child should understand? We have to keep asking. Because Jack and Lily can't. Let's remember what doesn't add up. A metallic star, found near an unnamed bridge, matching Lily's sweater, a boot print, and a washing machine removed under sealed warrant. Conflicting statements, shifting timelines, and a community paralyzed by shame and fatigue. If you followed this case, if you've seen something, heard something, or even just felt that something wasn't right, now is the time to speak. Drop a theory, leave a tip, share their names. Because Jack Sullivan and Lily Sullivan were real children. And right now, their story is being buried beneath red tape and small-town silence. Somewhere out there, someone remembers that day, remembers the moment they saw them last, remembers what they've kept quiet. And if they won't speak, then we will. Until Jack and Lily are no longer missing, but found.